The opposition wants you dumb. The opposition wants you weak. The opposition is going to stand in your way. But are they really the enemy? Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Balanced Blade, where strength, resilience, and leadership sharpen our edge. Let's cut through the noise and grow stronger together. We are forged in the blade, and we lead with edge. If you're new to the channel, like and subscribe. Don't forget to drop a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. I want to hear how you are persevering in your life. I want to hear how you are leading with edge. I want to hear how you are being resilient. Now, we hear a lot in our world, on YouTube, on various mediums about the opposition. What does that mean exactly? When we hear those words opposition, oftentimes we think the enemy. But is this really true? I'm not so sure. The opposition isn't always the enemy, but the opposition does stand between us and our goals. But it's a resistance, and it forces us to become just that much stronger. Just like a blade that is sharpened through hammering and heat, we are shaped through those challenges. Now, opposition can take different forms. It can be a difficult boss, somebody that's tough to work with, a competitor forcing you to improve, your own self-doubt. It can be your spouse. It can be your children. It can be a friend. And I think that's why it's so important. Again, we come back to this idea that the opposition is not necessarily our enemy. You know, Jesus said, love thy neighbor, love thy friend, love thy enemy. And I think there's a very important reason for this. Because that person that could be standing in front of you, standing between you and your goals right now, that person could be an ally down the line. Maybe not your friend, maybe not somebody that you're closely associating with, but an ally, somebody that you can work with, somebody that has something to offer you, and maybe you have something to offer them, and you can put a little goodness out into the world. You know, the object. You know, we as humans, we as people are really built to handle stress. We're built to adapt to it better than just about any other life form on this planet, particularly when it comes to being able to thrive and create through that stress. But in our current world, with so many mental health issues, we're getting in the way of our own self. And a lot of times we see that opposition, we want to blame that opposition. That's the other thing. The opposition may be standing in between you and your goals, but it's not the opposition's fault that you're not getting to your goals. Think about the opposition instead as a sharpening force rather than an obstacle. Think about great rivalries in sports, right? There was a time when I was younger where the Mets of New York could never beat the Atlanta Braves. And then one time they got him. They got to their great closer that they had, and they got to the seventh game and they couldn't get over it. And then this past year, the great shortstop of the Mets was able to hit a big home run, and the Mets overcame the Braves. What was funny, though, is in that second game, the Braves needed to win. They were playing a doubleheader at the end of the season. It was kind of stupid that it got scheduled like that, but the Braves needed to win, and the Mets certainly didn't let them win, but it was very unusual that both teams were celebrating making it to the playoffs at the same time. And I think they even both went out to the field and celebrated together, unofficially, of course, because that would be kind of strange if they were to celebrate at the same time. But there is a dual nature of opposition, to be sure, not just an enemy, not just the person, because you don't want to hate that person if it's somebody or that thing. Certainly you don't want to hate yourself if the opposition that you feel is you. There were many times when the opposition is a fellow competitor. And think about it this way. If you are competing in something that is judged, in my case, I compete in competitive martial arts. Now, some of this competition is what you would expect from this medium. It's two people fighting for points. Whoever scores the most points wins. But a lot of what we do is judged based upon how we look, how we execute certain techniques. And this is going to be subjective. And I might be able to have my very best performance and still not win, still not be first place. And it doesn't mean that I wasn't the best. It just means that in the opinion of those judges, I wasn't the best. And so it would be easy for me to look at the judges as the opposition, my fellow competitors, but I don't necessarily want to take ill will with any of them, because really deep down my competitor in that instance is just another gentleman like me trying to better themselves. But yet there is a level of friendly opposition. And so again, importance of choosing that word carefully. And when you hear that word placed, it's a bit of a softer word than utilizing the word enemy. Because if I say my enemy, well, there's no coming back from that. Absolutely. And you're certainly not going to be able to use it for something. You think about leveraging opposition, right? Now, these competitors that I speak of, I learn from them and we help each other out. In fact, I've helped coach some of them to a point where they perform at a higher level than I do on the thing that I'm competing with them against. And that's fine, because that's a part of growth. That's a part of leadership, teaching others, helping others. But also I'll learn things from my fellow competitors. I'll learn different techniques, different approaches, even just a different mindset to be successful. And when you do have those setbacks that the opposition can bring, whether it's active opposition or just something that's standing in your way, you have to reframe that and use that as fuel. Another thing when it comes to growth as it pertains to using the opposition is the idea where you intentionally put yourself into situations where there is an opposition. We'd like to think that, man, if there was nothing standing between me and my goals, I could get to them easily. But would those goals really have any sort of value if you were very easily able to achieve them? If there was no opposition, what would be the cost? They say that you give a man a free lunch and you're going to feed him for a day, but if you teach him how to go out and make that lunch, he's going to be fed for a lifetime. I know, talk about that, teach a man to fish, etc. But the bottom line is you've given a value. There's a cost, and that cost isn't a negative thing, but it's just it means that you have to do something. It means that you have to approach something. You don't just endure opposition, you forge yourself in it, and then you lead with edge. Opposition doesn't just stand against us or in between us and our goals. It forges us into something stronger. I would encourage you to be grateful for your opposition, because without that, you might not grow. And I would ask you, and let me know in the comments below, what challenges are you facing that might actually be sharpening you? And there's another creator that I would like to encourage you to watch. His name is Bedros Keuilian, and he has a show, the Bedros Keuilian Show. And he actually did an episode where he discussed the opposition. Now, he didn't go into the nuance or the detail of what the opposition is, but rather talked about the steps that you might face to overcome the opposition, to become better, and so forth. Now, the difference between breaking under the opposition and sharpening is how you face the pressure. You think about a sword being forged under the heat, that pressure could force that sword to crack, or it could turn into a very, very sharp tool and something that you can use. Well, that's it for today. Keep sharpening your mind, body, and purpose. Together we are forged in the blade. We lead with edge. Let's cut through the noise and grow stronger.